Antarctica has a way of shrinking you before it scares you. The light is sharp, the air is dry, and the silence feels like it's leaning in. Then you see it, red on white. A glacier stained like a crime scene, a stream sliding down clean ice as if the continent has been cut and never stopped bleeding. It's so vivid it looks freshly made, like the color shouldn't exist in a world built from snow and stone. Up close, it streaks and clings to the ice, rust crawling where it shouldn't be. Your mind reaches for the oldest explanation. Something died here, something big, something recent. But blood falls isn't a death, it's a signal. It spills from the edge of Taylor Glacier in the McMurdo Dry Valleys, a place that looks less like Earth and more like a stripped-down planet. Rock, wind and ice that refuses to melt. Nothing here feels soft. Nothing here feels forgiving. And that's why the red looks impossible. So let's break the illusion. That color isn't blood. It's iron-rich, hypersaline brine, salt water loaded with dissolved iron. When the brine reaches the surface and touches oxygen, the iron oxidizes. It turns red, the same way metal rusts. The glacier isn't bleeding. The chemistry is, and the next question is the one that makes your skin tighten. How can any liquid move in this cold? Because this isn't normal water. It's so salty that it resists freezing. Salt drags the freezing point down, letting brine stay liquid even below zero, hiding inside and beneath ice that looks solid from the outside. You're looking at a frozen world that still has motion inside it. Researchers connect blood falls to a larger brine system trapped under or within the glacier. An isolated pocket of water that may have been sealed away for an unimaginably long time. Picture it. No sunlight, little oxygen, pressure, minerals, darkness that never ends. Not a stream, not meltwater. A buried reservoir with nowhere to go until it finds one crack. And when it finds that crack, it leaks out like the planet exhaling. Studies using radar suggest the glacier can hold internal pathways, channels and pockets where brine can move slowly through ice. Not a river you can hear, a network you'd never suspect. And that's what makes blood falls feel wrong. It turns solid ground into a guess. Then comes the part that turns strange into unsettling. Because the brine isn't just chemical, it's a possible habitat. Scientists have found evidence of microbial life linked to these subglacial brines. Organisms that survive in extreme cold and darkness, running on chemistry instead of sunlight. They don't need plants. They don't need a normal food chain. They can use iron and sulfur reactions, living slowly, using almost nothing, enduring where we would call the place dead. Blood falls becomes a reminder that life doesn't always bloom. Sometimes it persists. And to study something like that, you can't just scoop a sample like it's a puddle. In Antarctica, contamination is its own kind of disaster. That's why teams develop clean access methods, ways to sample hidden environments without dragging our microbes into theirs, without turning a discovery into a lie. So Blood Falls doesn't give you something you can bottle or sell. It gives you a blueprint, how liquid behaves inside ice, how sealed systems survive, how glaciers can hide moving water in plain sight. And that matters, because hidden water changes ice. It changes flow. It changes stability. In a warming world, understanding what's inside ice isn't academic. It's the difference between guessing and knowing. But if you're looking for the real horror in Antarctica, don't stare at the red. Look at the white. Because Antarctica doesn't need predators. There are no polar bears here. No animal tracking you through fog. The danger is quieter. The ice can open. Crevasses, cracks in the glacier, can be wide as a room or thin as a slit. Sometimes they're obvious. Sometimes they're hidden under a smooth bridge of wind-packed snow that looks perfectly safe. And that's how the continent takes people. Not with a chase. With one step. In 1959, a young researcher was working in Antarctica. Routine work in a place where routine can still kill you. One moment you're walking, the next, the surface gives way. A hidden crevasse doesn't announce itself. It doesn't roar. It doesn't warn. It just stops being ground. He fell, and the rescue failed. Not because people didn't try, but because Antarctica strips away options. Cold, distance, terrain, time. You can fight hard and still lose quickly. Then the story became the kind Antarctica writes best. A name, a date, and an empty space where a person used to be. And the ice kept him. Years passed, decades passed. The world changed above the ice while the ice stayed patient. Then, in 2025, 66 years later, his remains were reported found as the glacier and landscape shifted, exposing what had been hidden for generations. Not a dramatic reveal. More like the continent quietly opening a file it has been storing. The ice that swallowed him had been moving the whole time, centimetre by centimetre, carrying what it took like a conveyor. Decades later, it reached a new edge and finally let go without a sound. That detail is the one that should stick in your throat. Antarctica doesn't just kill, it preserves. In most places, time erases evidence. Here, time seals it. A human life can be held in cold storage until the continent decides to give it back. And when you return to Blood Falls after hearing that, the red looks different. Not because the red is connected to that death. It isn't. But because both stories share the same truth. Antarctica can look still while something underneath is happening. Chemical, biological, or human. Blood Falls is iron meeting air, salt refusing to freeze, a buried system finding daylight for a moment. And the crevasse story is the reminder that the surface is a mask. This is the kind of place where nature doesn't need to be loud to be lethal. It doesn't need to show teeth. It just waits for weight, time, and one mistake. So if Blood Falls looks like the planet is wounded, remember, the wound is not the red. The wound is the illusion that the ice is simple. If you want more cinematic documentary stories where nature doesn't chase you, it waits. Subscribe to Off the Map. Next, Dahab Blue Hole, Egypt, the diver's graveyard. A perfect blue circle so beautiful it feels safe, and an invisible trap underwater. In Antarctica, the trap is under your feet. In Dahab, it's in your lungs.